Now we're going to move into content industries. It's a very nice conversation about how we can learn from the music industry the evolution toward digital. This is the type of topic that I'm passionate about, so I'm quite happy to have a very nice moderator to host the next session. He's a journalist, a researcher, and an expert. He has a weekly program in France Culture, and his book called Smart is a great research about the internet industries in all the world. And so it's a real pleasure to have him here to moderate the next session. Please welcome on stage Frederic Martel.
Bonjour à tous. Hi.
Done.
We're going to be together for 30 minutes. Hello, everybody. It's difficult to see, right?
I know. We get to see everyone.
Yes, you are very afraid. Are you okay?
No. Yes. I'm totally fine.
Okay. So we are with Jade, first of all.
Hello.
Hello, Jade. Jade McQueen. She has been A&R executive, and A&R, it's artist and repertory.
Yes, A&R
What does it mean?
executives. It basically means that you're the person that has the biggest expense account at a record company, and you get to go and sign bands and travel the world and make some albums, and hopefully your albums become successful. Mine clearly weren't that successful, but that's what you do. You basically go and sign bands, and it's pretty fantastic.
And then she left music to the movie industry, to the TV industry, and a few years after that, she ended up trying to bridge, as she says, the gap between entertainment and tech, and she joined Box.
I sure did. You got that right. I love that. So yeah, I started working in film and TV, and I quickly saw that the same thing I saw in music was happening, which is not really having a lot of technology involved. And I had a really, really fortunate chance to meet one of the co-founders of Box, and I thought it'd be great to actually bring what I knew from film and TV and entertainment to Box and start the media entertainment division for the company.
How would you define Box?
I would say that Box is a platform that allows people to collaborate on any project, anywhere, on any device.
On the cloud.
In the cloud solely, yes.
And what do you share? What do you do on?
So you can do anything on Box. If you're making a TV show, you can make a TV show on Box. But essentially speaking, the way that we think of it as connecting your information, no matter what your enterprise is, in a very secure way, in a very effective way, from any device in the cloud. So think of it as replacing any kind of structure that you would have, like an FTP structure, and think of being able to access anything you want to from a workflow perspective on any device.
So to summarize, and she's not going to be happy with what I said, it's basically, they dropped the drop of the Dropbox and they kept Box.
Well, actually, what we did is Dropbox is a fantastic, sync and share tool. But what we wanted to do was really create a collaborative platform so that people can actually do more than just sync and share. You can actually collaborate.
It's more B2B.
Yeah, it's very B2B. We actually have 33 million users, but we think that if you're going to use Box personally, chances are you're going to bring it into your enterprise. And so we have over 300,000 businesses that use Box. We are in 99% of the top Fortune 100. So think of a company like GE in worldwide. At GE, we have 300,000 people that use Box. And so it goes from like GE to Pixar, to Fox Studios, to Toyota, to Disney. We power companies to get to their information.
And you emphasize security and copyright, two key tools?
I would say we emphasize on security, and we also emphasize on mobility.
This is what I said. So.
Not essentially copyright, but obviously I am very conscious of copyright. But we emphasize on security because we want to make sure that if you're going to go in the cloud, everywhere that your information is, it's secure. At the end of the day, you're only as good as your security. And so you have to make sure that when a company like GE is putting information in the cloud, it is secure. And if you think of clients that we have, and Kevin here is from Sony, we're able to take pre-release information that content is everything and content is the moneymaker, and we're able to actually secure that information.
And so you work with many companies, actually 1,000, and among them one guy who is
sitting next to me, yes.
Close to you, Kevin Murray. Hey.
Correct.
Hello. So you have been also in the music industry for a long time, and you work with many other services, of course, but you work with Box. But we are not going to speak only about Box, but just in which sense, in which way Box can help the music industry?
Well, it helps us in a lot of ways. We were initially attracted to it because we had a very old file system at Sony. Sony's a very large corporation, and so a lot of legacy software, a lot of legacy ways of doing things. And we really wanted to find a way to better supply both our employees as well as our partners with all of the assets for all of our artists. We have over 100 artists from Beyonce, Bob Dylan, Daft Punk, MGMT. And we're working about 30 active artists at a time. So you can imagine the amount of assets that you have from any department, marketing, sales, press, and getting those to your partners in a timely fashion with the most up-to-date information is a pretty big task. And so we went to Box trying to streamline the process. No more file servers, no more cumbersome ways of moving files and documents and audio and video. When you put it in the cloud, it's accessible from your phone, from anywhere you're at. If you're in a meeting, you can send something right away. So it helps us be better at what we do and spend less time with the sort of administrative duties of pushing files around.
So Kevin Murray works on for Columbia, which is part of Sony Music. So basically, we introduce the speakers, the two speakers, and now we are going to focus on more general issue. I mean, not just on Box. The cloud will be one of the key questions of our discussion, and then also we will discuss several other aspects. Maybe let's take a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes on the cloud, and especially there is different kind of cloud. There is also the idea of subscription, music, and many other things will be made possible thanks to the cloud. So a question that I can ask to begin will be, do you think the revolution will be clouded for the music industry? Whoever wants to answer.
I think that it's definitely going to be involved in terms of making the content easily accessible for the consumer. Putting it in the cloud is the shortest distance to the consumer. So I think that it will be there. I think that the thing that's yet to play out completely is whether it will be subscription or if there's a better way to fund the artist so the artist can make a living off of it.
What could be the better way?
I think it's still.
If you have the answer, you will be
if I had that,
millionaire
I wouldn't
and very
be working
famous.
for Sony, right? I'd
But
be
you are
working
already.
for Kevin's streaming service or what,
I actually think that...
She has the answer.
Yeah, I actually don't have the answer yet, but I think that one thing that I do see with the cloud in the music industry, and I think in just entertainment in general, entertainment was one of the first industries to be heavily disrupted by the internet, if you think of Napster. And so they've seen their revenue dramatically go down. And so they've had to come up with ways where you have to move faster when it comes down to your infrastructure. And so where the cloud is really helpful is changing the infrastructure of how fast you can do business. So all of a sudden, like I said, when you have access to your mobile files from a completely different country, you can have 4 to 5 producers working together on the same album at the same time. And adding that security, again, is a really big element. So I always think of it as business efficiencies through the cloud is something that's already been really proven.
In which sense the cloud can really help and save the content industry?
I think, again, if you go back to the fact that when you have data in the cloud, that it puts it at its most accessible point. So you are, once you build something around that infrastructure, then it's much easier to come up with new methodologies. I think that the tricky part in terms of the commerce part, like Jade was talking about, is just making sure that transaction is something that is actually happening across the board for all the content. I mean, that's the really tricky part, right? You don't want the content to be out there. The cloud works both ways. Everybody has the cloud. Mega Upload could have the cloud, right? So it's finding that balance between the two. The technology itself is great for delivering the content, but how do you...
It depends what you're going to do with that.
And how do you retain the rights for the media holder, whether it's the directors and or the the artists. You want to make sure everybody's getting paid for their content. So that's the tricky element of
Part
it.
of that.
Yeah.
Both of you, I mean, maybe more toward consumer and more toward business. Do you think the cloud, especially for the content industry, the music industry, and the others, has to be something very, I mean, global actually, or do you think it has to become more and more territorialized in some aspect, either for security reason, or for speed, or for just to be more close to your market?
I was going to say, from an overall entertainment perspective, I think it has to be globalized, simply because entertainment is a global business. And if you think of the market in Europe, it's over $600 billion, and it's growing at a super, super fast rate.
This is an American point of view. I mean, the entertainment is not a global content industry.
We like to think of it as a global business.
Yes, but if you spend a bit sometimes in India or
That's
in
true.
Brazil, you will
That's
see
true.
that
That's
the
true.
people are listening mainly their own music
Right.
and Bollywood and so on and so forth. So.
That's true. I guess what I'm trying to say is, one of the, we do work with many, many verticals, and there's certain verticals, for example, like healthcare, which are very specific to the US, but if you think of entertainment, it's one of the only verticals that no matter where you go in the world, no matter what the music the music that you're producing or the films you're producing is the same exact workflow. So in that sense, it's very global, because you can take something that works really well in the US, for example, with Netflix, and we can take that same formula, the same way that they use the cloud, and you have a call? Oh. The same way that we use the cloud, and we can take that formula and apply it anywhere in the world. So in a way, the cloud is making it a democratic process for people to be able to create, collaborate, and share content worldwide.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's important. There's a global element, but it's on the licensing side. So you may have different permissions in different countries, but I think that the actual file itself is going to still be in the cloud. It's a matter of how you're getting to the actual file via licensing, and whether or not it's accessible in certain countries on certain street dates. So there's a dynamic to it that I think you're still using the cloud to deliver it, but it's that in between the consumer and the actual file is going to be some legal matters and regional global licensing issues that you have to think about.
One thing also that we actually didn't mention is the fact that all of the files, whether it's entertainment or whether we're talking about, healthcare, are digital files. And if you think of the growth of digital, in entertainment, it's over 12% in the past 4 years, right? And I'm not really sure what it is in other industries, but all of a sudden, the challenge really becomes, how do you manage all those files? And so the cloud becomes that one specific universe that is able to manage those files for you in a way where you don't have a whole lot of maintenance.
If you want to ask some question, you're welcome to do it. And pour la régie, si on peut avoir les questions on the screen, will be perfect. A question about go to interact in LeWeb app, as I say. It seems that there is right now many companies on the cloud with different cloud, as I said before. Cloud as services, cloud as all the differences. Cloud made in India, cloud made in Europe, whatever. But quite often when we look at who is behind the cloud, there is another cloud. In a sense that, you have Netflix and you feel you're on Netflix, but actually you're on Amazon. There is Dropbox, and then you ended up finding that you're also on Amazon. And even when the NSA is taking your information, they put the information, not all of them, but some of them, on Amazon cloud services. So at the end, it's more concentration, no?
I was going to say, I can answer from a Box perspective. We actually have our own servers that we manage ourselves.
Yes, but because you're very focusing on the industry in the US right now.
Well, we do have a global expansion plan.
Yes, but when you will be everywhere, you will need to be close to the people. Then
absolutely.
What are you going to do?
We will do the same thing. We'll have our own infrastructure. And the reason why we do that is because we believe in securing the information first and foremost, and at least really managing how the information goes in and out, and also for speed factor.
Yeah, I think that's for us, it's in terms of distributing content on a content delivery network. Amazon is something that you have to consider in terms of especially from a media standpoint. And so we're looking at it from the technology itself. Like you're saying, the cloud is everywhere, and you can't just. I don't think you're going to sit there and say, oh well, we're just going to subscribe to one singular cloud. I think you have to look at tools from a digital sense, and use those that are at your that you have in front of you to take care of the task at hand. Box is good. A great example of how we used Box globally was when the Beyonce record came out. All the promotion went through Box. And that was, high-res video files to all the promo materials. And, there was we saw no bounce back as far as people saying, oh, well, we can't get to the files now. It was a great delivery network for it. But then if you go over to something where there's maybe some more licensing and you're going to have to use somebody like an Amazon or another content delivery network, then those are the tools that you use that are best for the job. I think that you just have to, I think that technology itself is, there's beauty in the cloud, but you have to find the right tools for the execution that you're trying to deliver.
I was going to say, so the other big movement that we see is what we call the cloud stack. So, for example, you can use Box for your collaboration, but you'll use Salesforce for your CRM, and then you'll use, Workday for your HR, and all of it really goes back to business needing to be flexible, and also being able to not have that overhead of IT maintenance. So all that kind of stuff is really what we see a lot of, and it makes it that you can just move faster as an operation in general.
You're welcome. Your question are welcome. For now, I'm waiting. We'll see. Maybe a question more on the music industry. If we look at how the music industry try, right now to find a model, there is 3 kind of models that are pretty efficient right now. The first one is iTunes, and basically selling the music, CD, album after album or songs after song, and it's kind of declining. Then, and they have 80% more of that market, Apple. Then you have mainly the radio system, what we call, it's like website and services that are working on the radio model, which is you can listen whatever you want, but you cannot pick and choose a specific song, even though you can delete some and accelerate the process. And then you have, of course, a subscription system, Pandora in the US, Spotify in Europe, also Deezer, Qobuz, and some others. 2 of them, and actually maybe 3 of them, are based on the cloud. So how do you see the future of the music industry without the cloud?
Without the cloud? I think, you still see adoption of even physical media for the music industry, because I think that's still, we've seen vinyl explode, for example. So I think you have to not just be centrally focused on one option. And then, when you have options, embrace the physical, embrace the digital, embrace the streaming, and maximize, give the consumer what they want, the media in the format that they want.
A question, is there a cloud-based service that allows artists to interact with their fans in a secure and paid environment? Example, online private parties with the artist.
Actually, there is. It's called VYRT, V-Y-R-T, and it's ran and was founded by Jared Leto from 30 Seconds to Mars, an Oscar-winning actor. It actually allows you to have any kind of party. It can be a concert, it can be a viewing and listening party, and you can actually set up the fee at which you want people to pay for to see that. So I would definitely look into it if you're interested.
Another question for you. How long did it take to migrate all of Sony's digital assets onto the box, and was it a fast adoption rate to use a new digital tool? You can both answer.
Yeah, as far as how long, we started at a very gradual rate. Columbia is one of the few labels, the only label within the Sony Music Group that has its own digital production group. So we're a little bit more nimble, and we can bring new technology in quickly. So our plan originally was just to bring in the current artists that we were working and test out the technology and see how our employees handled it, because sometimes that's, when you were talking about the primary things for Box that are important, security, and I can't remember what the other one was, but you didn't mention user interface. That, to me, is almost bigger, well, it's not bigger than security. I'm talking from Sony here, so. But the user interface part is huge because at the end of the day, when you bring a technology in, you want to make sure that the adoption rate is acceptable and that you can get that technology up and running. Because the worst thing in the world is to get sign on with the technology and have everyone not use it or use it improperly. And with Box, we found it was very fast adoption rate, very easy learning curve. One of the most important parts of it, though, from our perspective as a digital group, was to train the employees on how to put those assets on there and not to have it go the way of the old school file servers of just thousands and thousands of documents in random order. We have a pretty strict system of how they're supposed to keep, where they're supposed to keep the data. So.
I was going to say, there's also such a frustration with so many solutions. If you look at most companies, there's at least 4 to 5, different solutions that are in place at the same time. And so I think what Box wins is the use of it, and it's also the native use of it. So for entertainment, we really made sure that our platform matched an entertainment workflow, if that makes any sense, because I think that your job as a cloud solution is to make sure that technology does not get in the way. If you're making a film, you don't care about what technology you're using, but you care about making the best movie. So we tend to always focus on how can you make your best work, how can you put out the best album, how can you make the best TV show. And so if technology is not in the way, that's really the win for you.
So Kevin Murray, the Senior Director of Online Production at Columbia Records, part of Sony, and with her, Jade, she's in charge of media and entertainment strategies at Box. And she lives in San Francisco, but it's a LA company.
No, I live in LA.
The opposite.
I live in LA, but we're a typical Silicon Valley company. We're in Palo Alto with offices in San Francisco, but I happen to live in the capital of entertainment, which is, again, a very US-centric view of it, Los Angeles.
When you look at the cloud, you can have the cloud to put to use it to bring content to people. You can use it to bring services. You can use it to bring software, and so on and so forth. So at the end, why not having Box on the cloud and part of it without being a separate company?
Are you talking about a straight from creator to distribution platform? That comes across a lot, actually, in questions, and really a lot of it for us is based on what our business wants. So we have a few things that we're doing right now with some companies that are trying to go from the file straight to the consumer. It wasn't the focus of ours, but it's becoming something that's increasingly being asked of, and we're considering. I have a few top secret projects I can't talk about just yet, but we're definitely considering figuring out how we can do that.
A question for Kevin. I think it's a kind of joke, but is the music business expecting to see increased revenue from a vinyl renaissance?
I mean, it's definitely a renaissance in the sense that if
it goes to museum. You mean?
Huh?
It goes to museum.
Yeah. No,
you see, he has a sense of humor.
You have to. I think in the music business.
Because the famous, you saw the Social Network, yeah? And then the Mark Zuckerberg people say, the music industry has no sense of humor. It was a very famous quotation. I think it was by Justin Timberlake, who plays one of the characters in the movie. But you have the sense of humor, so basically the music industry kept and refined the sense of humor. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I think that's one of the difficult parts of the music industry is that it's an industry that is, for a long time, I've been in the tech side of it for probably, 15 years, which is an anomaly within the music industry. And that's what I'm trying to do, at least at Sony, is to advocate for technology and to bring that sense of humor and get them, to see some of the light of, bringing those experiences to the consumer. But going back to the vinyl issue, everything helps, right? And I think, especially from my perspective, I think it's important for the consumer to go back to that experience of having that physical piece in their hand. Because I think even if you come up with the most dynamic digital experience, there's something tangible about having a piece of art in your hand, as opposed
it's a kind of wishful thinking, maybe, no?
Maybe.
It's actually.
I don't believe 1 second in that, but that's okay. Don't worry.
I think it's a fan thinking, actually, because
yes.
This is actually Kevin's first time in Paris, and the first thing he did was go record shopping. So you're asking like a vinyl fan over here.
A question: does Box have any any technology which other company can't copy easily?
That's a really hard question to answer, and I'm not
You're going to say no, but
well,
I don't trust you. I don't believe you if you say
well,
that.
Here's the thing. It's not, I mean, the technology is one thing, but I'd like to think that we're beyond the technology. The way that we actually think of the business, the vision that we have for the space in general, on how we want to revolutionize the space is really what makes us different than our competition. We were one of the first companies to actually go out there and have a whole platform system where we have over 2,000 apps that are integrated. So I can't really answer that question for you, but I can definitely tell you that we try to do the best that we can to be the strongest.
Well, let me just add on to that one. I think that one of the more important things is should somebody copy Box, let's say, they don't have the infrastructure and this big company behind it to support it, which is a really important part of the company. So I mean, they're innovating and they're taking care of security, and that's an important part of the whole structure.
So basically, Kevin tries to help Jade, but now Jade might help Kevin with this question. Can you explain what happened with the security breach at Sony Pictures a couple of weeks ago, and with Sony Music Unlimited a couple of years ago?
Well, so Sony Pictures I can't really speak on because it's not our division. But I mean, it's a very legitimate question in the news today, right? They have a big target on them. An international company. People are coming.
Is it North Korea?
Is it what?
Oh. North Korea.
Like I said,
they said no, so we can trust them, right?
Well, Sony said no?
No. North Korea said we are not involved.
Oh, I thought they said that for the PlayStation
one.
Oh, okay. That was for PlayStation.
Yes.
That's a different one.
Yes, but
I mean, I think
of Sony as well.
And the press loves it, obviously, too, because it's like, they just jump on each one.
Not only the press. I mean, we care about that.
No. It's very important to care about. And I think that's one of the challenges, especially from a technology standpoint, that you have to be nimble and you have to be thinking about it. But also from, some of the, I think from the higher level of not thinking about it of we don't want to be hacked, but what are you going to do? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So it's reducing the amount of damage and making sure that you're being vigilant always. You don't get to a certain point and say, we're secure. It's a state of mind forever. And it's going to get harder as you go along. So you have to keep working at it. And unfortunately, an international company like Sony has to work 10 times harder because they have a large target on them.
Another question, maybe for Jade. What was the difference in growth path between Box and competitors? So let's go.
Yeah, I can answer that actually fairly simply. Basically, we decided a few years back to really focus on the enterprise and focus on helping businesses.
Because you lost the war against Dropbox, for example.
No, not really. We realized it was actually before Dropbox, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Box actually started before Dropbox. So it wasn't really about that. It was more so the core of what we felt where we could really make a difference, and where we thought the core of our product would be better used was more so towards the enterprise, which means that turns your focus more on security, more on collaboration, and on really helping all kinds of different businesses. But that was one of the biggest differentiators in our growth. And so, when I started at Box 4.5 years ago, we were at 89 people, and we're over 1,400 now because of that kind of focus on just businesses.
We had to speak 30 minutes, and we have now 1 second. So we are perfectly on time.
Love it.
Thank you for
having us.
We are late, 4 seconds late. It's terrible, horrible.
Now we're going to get kicked
Kevin
out.
Murray is Senior Director of Online Production at Columbia Records. Thanks.
Thank you.
He's part of Sony Pictures. And Jade McQueen, she's overseeing media and entertainment strategies at Box.
Merci.